Welcome into another episode of Steelers Afternoon Drive. I am Zachary Smith, and as promised, Brennan Howe joining me once again on today's show. Brennan, how we doing?
Not too bad. We got some big news here to talk about. So, like you said, the show kind of wrote itself in the past half an hour.
Yeah, everyone knows what we're talking about. Former Steeler Mike Williams retired. That's it.
Yeah,
That's the big news that we're
right
going to
there.
talk about on the podcast today. No, in all seriousness, wishing Mike the best. Man, the injuries, dude, they just sapped him of his athleticism. I mean, coming out of Clemson, like I thought he was going to have a fantastic career. To be a receiver to go in the top 10, you got to be pretty special like he was, and certainly showed glimpses of it throughout his career, but just injuries all the time. And obviously the Steelers tenure didn't go that great. We'll always have the memorable moment against Washington right after acquiring him. But yeah, wishing him all the best in his post-football playing career. But that's not the big news that we're talking about. I always got to throw in a joke when I get the opportunity to do so. But J. Watt has officially signed his extension to remain with the Pittsburgh Steelers. We can put the trade talk to rest. Heck, we could put something to rest. I didn't think we were going to be able to. They get this deal done before training camp. No hold-in situation. He's going to be full go when we get there, which I think is just pressure off everybody's shoulders to get this deal done. So really good timing on this. I believe a lot of the front office had just gotten back from vacation as well. So like timeline-wise, it made sense that they would make one last push to get this done. But Brendan, I was actually told like literally just yesterday that they still weren't close. So I don't know if just within 24 hours there was that much significant progress made. He gets what he wants with that guaranteed money over 3 years. And I think keeping it shorter term is probably maybe where he can cede it a little bit, going 3-year extension as opposed to 4 and 5. So, I think overall win for everybody, but certainly, getting 41 million, surpassing the APY of Garrett and getting the guaranteed money he want. This is what TJ Watt was looking for.
Yeah, and maybe the front office saw that picture of him when they're curving today. I'm not sure you got to saw it. He's
Dude,
huge. Like he never
yeah.
fails to impress.
Well, we just talked about yesterday, I think a big part of his transition and how he's going to age is going to be converting that speed to power and not just being a speed rusher, but being able to kind of dip more into his bag and become more of like a power guy. Well, I mean, he certainly looks like that upper half looks ready to kind of make that transition. So I'm very curious as to what this is going to look like, not only from just like a build standpoint, like we're talking about, but like alignment wise, talked a lot about like him moving around a bit more. Like this was even before he signed this extension and stuff like that. That was something that needed to happen. So I can't wait now that he's going to be full systems go in training camp to see what that looks like.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like it's too much of a surprise that they end up signing him. Like you heard the trade rumors and stuff, but with the way they've operated this offseason, with the moves they've made, it would have made about
Yeah.
0 cents for them to trade him away. Like no matter how much you got for him, like you could get a lot for TJ Watt, it seems like, but they weren't doing that.
Well, that's, I've had that. Derek and I actually had a little bit of a disagreement on last Friday's episode because I basically said the same thing. And, because even despite how the outside feels like my standpoint, and I'm assuming where you're coming from as well, is like how they feel internally about what the team can do. Like, I still don't view them as Super Bowl contenders or anything like that, but internally, they're trying to make a push to do so. Because Derek was like, well, are they really like all that much better this year than they were last year? And I was like, in my opinion, I think they're a little bit better, not significantly, not to the point where I think that they're a Super Bowl contender, but I think internally they think that they're like all systems go gearing up for a run, while also, again, like this balancing act, not pushing all their chips in to the point where they're giving up future draft capital to do so. So I don't know. They're walking the tightrope with doing this, but certainly I agree. Like this kind of feels like, maybe there is still a minor addition to be made to the receiver room or to the safety room, but this really felt like it needed to be the cherry on top of this offseason was getting this extension done.
Yeah, and like this offseason has felt to me kind of like patchwork, but also with the level of names that it doesn't feel like patchwork. Like, I don't know, bringing Aaron Rodgers in, like I'm sure it's been talked about at length on here and by everyone else. Just like you don't know what you're getting out of him. You know what you're getting out of TJ Watt. I'll kind of spin back there. Like he's 30 years old. He has 108 career sacks, and I was looking at the active leaders. Justin Houston and Chandler Jones are still on this list, but it looks like Chandler Jones hasn't played since 2022. Justin Houston since 2023. Those in front of him include Von Miller, who signed with the Washington Commanders last night. He has 129.5 on his career. He started in 2011, 6 years before TJ Watt. Cam Jordan, 121.5, also 2011. And Calais Campbell, who's basically a football dinosaur at this point. He's right ahead of TJ at 110.5. He's been playing forever, 2008. So there's not many guys that can call themselves contemporaries with TJ Watts. Of course, Myles Garrett, who he ends up getting paid more than, which I'm sure was a little bit of a selling point on that contract. But there's not many people that can say that they've kept up with TJ Watt over the past 8-9 seasons.
Mm-hmm. And don't get me wrong, like I know there's going to be people in the comments that disagree with the team doing this, and like I said, I get it. I mean, the argument against it to me more so than what he's making, because I think a lot of people look at that raw number, see 40 million, and that like scares them off. But if you're looking at it as a percentage of the cap, with the way that the cap is increased, it's actually a lower percentage of the cap than his last deal has been. So I think from that standpoint, I don't necessarily have any qualms about that. What I do have some qualms about is, again, how's his game going to age? And we've now seen 3 straight seasons where, whether it be for injury or just performance in general, we have not seen TJ Watt in the last month of the season, basically now for 3 straight years. 22, he obviously, had that partial tear of the pec. 23, he gets hurt right before the playoff game and then doesn't play in the playoff game. Then last year gets hurt against Philly and we doesn't, basically no impact the rest of the season. Well, I don't want to say no impact, not TJ Watt. The last month of the season, I still think he forced like a fumble or two within that stretch, but clearly was not the same player after the game against Philly when he got hurt.
Yeah,
that is the question to me, and I think that's why, despite me it not being the direction that I would have wanted the team to go, the Jack Sawyer pick potentially plays into this. Having Nick Herbig around potentially plays into this. Maybe less is more with TJ Watt. And, maybe instead of playing 85 to 90% of the snaps, you're going to be able to get him more around that 80 number, keep him fresher. Hopefully he's ready to go down the stretch. And I think that could be a big part of this, kind of 2 birds with 1 stone, if you will, and being able to keep him fresh. So I think there's a lot of context that needs to be looked at when you're talking about this deal, and I can see it from all angles. But again, just going back to that point, had they not operated the way that they did throughout the rest of the offseason, decide they wanted to hit the reset button and traded TJ Watt, it's not the direction I would have gone, but I think you could have made a case that it makes sense. With everything else that they did, I don't know how anything other than extending him made sense.
Yeah, and you mentioned the people that they brought in, and what stood out to me there, and what has kind of been something that I've focused on a little bit this offseason too, is those last 2 games. It was Tony Snell in the NBA that ran up and down the court, had 0 assists, 0 points. You know what I'm talking about? Yet he didn't have an official statistic in those last 2 games. Yeah. The injuries do factor in, and you kind of hope that that's the reason. Like I said earlier, what you're getting out of TJ Watt, but the arguing point to it, yes, he's 30 years old. You don't see many guys get better as they get older. Cam Hayward might be one of those exceptions, as we talked about yesterday. But overall, like we've said, I think it makes sense. And we'll see how it kind of pays itself off over here in the next few seasons.
So you look at it as a 4-year deal, basically, $36 million average this year. The number was set, the cap hit was set to be $30.41 million. Base of 21 million, signing bonus 7 million. We'll see how they end up really structuring this thing out and everything like that. But yeah, there's a $6 million jump obviously in his per year pay on this deal. But again, the 3 new years have an average of $41 million. That's why it was put out that way. So we'll see how it's structured out, how they want to, do that in terms of what the signing bonuses are and everything like that. But we don't have that information as we sit here right now. Is this, I guess, we've talked about a lot of from the Steelers side of things, how it makes sense because of how they operated, but just your own personal opinion on this. Is this the direction that you feel like they should have gone?
I've been on record saying, maybe not on record, but I've talked about before, maybe trading him would have made sense at a certain point. Like I said earlier, I don't know how much you get for him. It seems like it's TJ Watt. You get a good amount for him. And you've seen franchises kind of ship someone off and get however many picks back and kind of build their team that way. I'm not going to say I would have traded him, but I would have understood had they traded him, just because of the return and how you can build your team through the draft, and especially those early round picks. We're going to see next year how it works with the 3rd round picks that they have now, that they're treating like gold. They're not getting rid of those. They're not trading those away. So I think that it would have made sense somewhat, but it's not something that I would have jumped the gun to do.
See, it's hard for me. I actually think that a trade would have been very difficult to find good value on. Because, if you're talking about, a 1st round pick plus, then I think it's something you have to at least entertain. Again, I don't know that I would have wanted them to do it, but I think it's something you have to entertain. In terms of just like the value that I've seen thrown around there from like people that cover the league, saying like it's like probably like a day 2 pick because of what he would be due, and there's some concern about how his game's going to age. Like that to me is not doing it. Like I'm not giving up TJ Watt for one day 2 pick. Like I don't think that that's worth it to do. I understand, draft capital is going to be very necessary for their plans at quarterback. Their own pick probably is not going to land them what they need to land to get that future franchise quarterback. But yeah, it would have been a hard sell for me based off what I think the return would have been. Now, if what you're talking about, if it was higher than I would have expected, then maybe it is something that they should have entertained, but obviously moot point now. Yeah, I think until we have this contract details, it's going to be harder to dive into this more. The reason, though, your opinion is what it is to at least entertain it. Do you have concerns about the way that his game is going to age for one reason or another, whether it's just like the style of rusher that he is or, the injuries mounting?
Well, I think we've seen, I'm not sure of the statistics exactly, but you saw his brother at one point kind of leave the Texans, go to the Cardinals. I don't think he made the impact in Arizona that he did in Houston. I think that's fair to say. Another thing that I think factors into this that I wanted to ask you about was like Micah Parsons is up for a deal too. I don't think it might be that long that TJ Watt is the highest paid non-QB in the NFL. Like Micah Parsons could sign tomorrow and he's going to get his money too. So do you think maybe they wanted to get this done as quickly as they could ahead of Micah Parsons because they knew that price would just kept raising?
I mean, if they, sure, but at the same time, their mindset, if that was going to be the case, should have been let's get ahead of a lot of other guys that they did as well. I mean, that's been widely talked about. Like, if you're so worried about getting in front of Parsons, why weren't you in terms of like Myles Garrett as well? So I don't know. I mean, there's been a lot of rushers. Like Daniil Hunter signed for $36 million, and then Myles surpassed that by $4 million on a per year basis. So like maybe they weren't expecting that big of a gap between them, and they thought they would still be like in the high 30s as opposed to low 40s on a per year basis. I don't know. But I mean, the market is the market. It is what it is. I agree that I think Micah Parsons is going to surpass this. One, he's younger. I think that he certainly has that on his side. They asked him to do a little bit more than at least we've seen from TJ in the past. Not just in terms of obviously rotating sides and stuff like that, but like obviously the off-ball linebacker, like not doesn't bring as much value when he plays that spot, but he can do it. He can rush from over the center and stuff like that. So that's another, but like Trey Hendrickson too. I don't think he's going to pass these guys that we're talking about. And I don't think he's even like, it's weird because I like Cincinnati, man, Mike Brown, just, I don't know what they're doing. But like when a guy like Trey Hendrickson has been looking for a new deal for like multiple years now, keeps getting told it's going to happen, and he's not even looking to reset the market, despite the fact that he is the sack king over the last 2 seasons. Like, what are we doing? Like, if you could get him for like 35 right now, how's that deal not done? And I don't know. They're really backed into a corner, in my opinion, with that. And I think he ultimately ends up signing an extension, but I don't know. From like a PR standpoint, they've really hurt themselves with the way that thing has drug on, especially because like the person that Trey is and openly talking about it. But yeah, just to answer your question, maybe a part of it was get in front of Micah, but it's just odd that like they cared so much about that one and not get in front of the other ones. Like it didn't seem like there was any urgency up until today for whatever reason.
Yeah, I feel like the Bengals kind of always find a way to shoot themselves in the foot with. I mean, I guess Joe Burrow does value his receivers, but you saw how that offense or defense was last year, especially in the game versus Steelers. Like I missed part of that game actually that day, and I came back and I saw the scores. Like this looks like basketball compared to what we've seen in previous weeks and what we're used to seeing here, like during the Matt Canada days and stuff. So
they had no answer for a very average offense. I mean, Cincinnati's defense was awful last year, and that was with Trey Hendrickson. If they don't have him, they're going to have to score 50 points a game. Like their offense is going to have to somehow be better than it was last year.
Yeah. And I've seen like people on Twitter compare like the secondaries. Like Bengals fans will say something about the Steelers secondary. It's like, then they'll point out who the Bengals stars are at corner, and that secondary is not up to par, it seems, with what the Steelers have right now.
No, it's not a good unit. Maybe Al Golden, the new defensive coordinator coming from Notre Dame, will make the difference, but I can't see him being able to mask that personnel that much. But we'll see on that front. Yeah, TJ Watt, new contract, highest paid non-quarterback now, for, like you mentioned, maybe a little bit, but I don't see. It's weird because like Micah Parsons had mentioned like last season that he'd be willing to take a discount. Like, why didn't they sign him the moment that he said that?
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just the way that some of these teams operate, and then they like, I don't know. Dallas is another very interesting team as well. They obviously had the deals with CD and Dak to get done last year, and to their credit, they were able to get both of those. Made the big trade for George this offseason. But like, Micah's the straw that stirs that drink. Like, that has to happen for them to be competitive. Like, and you got two teams that played in the NFC Championship last year in your own division. So
you'll never see this, but like, I know Hard Knocks tries to give like glimpses into things, and I'm sure that teams have to like approve what goes through, maybe like,
yeah.
But imagine a show or something of that like nature of seeing honesty among front offices, general managers, like just about what goes on. It seems that a lot of times it's kind of very close to the vest. It'd be really interesting to kind of hear what they have to say along those timelines with a full like truth serum, like not kind of just the PR stuff you hear.
So this deal will go through 2028 for TJ Watt. He'll be 35. I mean, I don't know. At that point, does he sign another contract? Or, we talked about, you brought up his brother who retired before that age. So I think it's very possible that TJ would do the same after this contract. I don't think we always need to compare him to his brother, but like, I think it's very possible that he just had, a baby. And I think at some point he's going to want to step away from the game and just live life away from it. But, like, from your perspective, how important do you think it was for him to be a one helmet guy?
I think that is a very important thing for some players. Like Ben Roethlisberger, I remember seeing that, I guess San Francisco reached out to him at one point, or he thought that they were going to reach out.
2015, that was something that almost happened. Yeah.
Obviously, I think Ben is the longest tenured Steeler. Like, I think you think of guys like Kobe Bryant in different sports, like that is something where you're always cherishing that city. Like that city can never say that you went somewhere else, say that like your time ran out. Hines Ward is another one of those guys. Like we've seen a few of them just in Steelers colors. That is something that I think some people kind of value. And like he wanted his money, obviously, but you figure he's been here for almost a decade. Like he's got to like being here. He's got to have a lot of roots here. I know he goes back to Wisconsin at points, but that's something that I think is pretty important for some.
Yeah, I mean, you obviously Cam Hayward is going to be a one helmet guy. And I just wonder with him playing along that same defensive line, having the relationship that he does with Cam, if he cherished it the same way. I think from TJ's perspective, it was certainly important to do so. I'm curious, and I mentioned this on here before, and this is just from like conversations that I've had with people that are in the know. I really think that Omar would have been more willing to move on from TJ. I don't think Tomlin and Rooney would have allowed it to happen at the end of the day. So I think that we kind of found out, in my opinion, like, how that power struggle goes behind the scenes, which, I mean, we know Tomlin is, obviously a massive voice in everything, not just as the head coach. But yeah, I think it was certainly important for all parties to make sure that he was going to be a one helmet guy. And from a fan perspective, I'm curious as to what the reaction of that is going to be, because, if you're not a productive player, fans will go from loving you to hating you in an instant. Like if this deal goes poorly for TJ, fan reaction is going to be that they should have never signed him to this contract to begin with. Just from my perspective, it's, I try not to get attached to players. There are certain ones that kind of fall through the cracks, but in a positive way in this sense, where, I do get attached to, and I think TJ certainly falls into that bucket. So like from my perspective as a fan, I wanted them to get this deal done. I'm not going to say regardless of what it took, but pretty close to just give him whatever he asked for, just because I knew it wasn't going to be that much different than the Myles Garrett contract. And we also know that you're going to not have an expensive quarterback until the guaranteed money on this deal is going to be up anyway. Like Aaron right now, then drafting a guy. By the time that you're hopefully, and that's if the guy hits, by the time you're hopefully paying that quarterback that you hopefully hit on, TJ's guaranteed money is going to be up. So that was kind of my perspective, is right now is the time to sign this deal while you're not paying that position.
Yeah. And you mentioned some of the soft spots that you have for players. Like Mine,
Yeah.
it's funny. I enjoyed covering George Pickens. I loved watching him play. There was
Wow. Okay.
whether it was a crazy play he made or it was like what he did on the field, there was always something interesting happening with him. Like it was just like sometimes it was a train wreck, like he couldn't look away. So when he got traded to Dallas, I'll admit I was a little disappointed. I'm a big Ohio State fan, and Justin Fields, like I loved watching him from the time he showed up at Ohio State. So I'm 0 for 2 this season. I guess you kind of win this one, but I went 0 for 2 there. It did make me a little sad.
It's funny that between the Steelers now guys, you and Alan, very different reactions to George Pickens being moved.
Yeah, he talked to us in different ways too. So we know Alan's reasons there.
Yeah, absolutely. Anything else to kind of put a bow on the TJ Watt thing before we get to a couple questions here?
I don't think I have anything.
Yeah. Let us know your thoughts, obviously, in the comments about TJ Watt's massive mega contract extension. Once again, making him the highest paid non-quarterback. To be able to do that multiple times in your career, I'd say TJ's done pretty good for himself in the negotiation department. I put out for a couple questions so we can get to those. It's like this was well before, so I'm assuming there's not going to be anything TJ related within here. So this isn't related to the Steelers. Sometimes we'll get these, and I do enjoy taking a little break from the conversation here. Josh Banks, friend of the program. Have you ever had Altoona style pizza? Like, do you know what it is?
I saw that. Is that the one where it's like cold cheese on top? Is am I wrong there?
So no, this is like the yellow cheese just on top of pizza, not the cold toppings thing.
I know you're talking about now. Yeah, I'm not too sure. I haven't had that before. I'm not sure that I'd try that. I wouldn't say I'm picky when it comes to pizza, but I'm not the extraordinaire like Alan is. Like I see Alan on Twitter and
that's why Josh said we got to talk about this without him on here because he didn't want to steer our direction. I had it once. I used to have some pretty good connections with a couple guys that played for the Altoona Curve. Got it once. I can't say it was for me. Job and I this week spent a lot of time talking about different pizzas on here. Altoona style did not come up, thankfully, for me to rank. So, but I would have had it probably. I mean, out of the choices that we talked about at the bottom, for sure. I don't know if there's a pizza that I would. See, I don't know if I do cold toppings or Altoona style. That's a toss up for me. Which one I would have to, if I had to eat one, which one it would be?
Yeah, that would be a tough one there. I'm the type. I used to love going to CC's. Do you remember CC's?
Yes.
Yeah, I used to love the mac and cheese pizza there. So I have like the palate of a child. Like I went down to Virginia with my friends last summer for like a little beach vacation for the weekend, and there was a CC's down there, and I hadn't eaten at a CC's in like 10 years. And we went there. I realized I couldn't eat as much as I could when I was a kid. Like I'd eat until I got sick when I was a kid. So
yeah, it's tough for Alan on here. Somebody actually, DB and I were on with him for a 4th of July episode that we did, and people were asking us like non-Steelers related questions about food and stuff. I'm so picky, and DB, I swear to God, like eats nothing like besides grilled chicken. So it was very tough for Alan to get through that episode talking about food with me and him.
One of my friends told me yesterday that he doesn't like mac and cheese. Like he said he doesn't care for it, which I think is crazy. Like I could eat that every day and not get tired of it. Like same thing with like the spaghetti with
so many different styles of it. Yeah. That's great. All right. Well, anyways, there's our break from Steelers football right there. But and also, if you watch or listen to this show, you know that I'm willing to read pretty much everybody's name, unless there's some type of slur. Obviously, I'm not going to read it on here. But something like this, I find hilarious. Branson's sloppy seconds wants to know what positional room we believe is the most improved from last season, and which room worries us the most. Maybe throw in an honorable mention if you feel like there's a couple. I'll let you go first because I can actually think of a few that I feel pretty good about from last year to this year, and I don't want to take all of them if you have one.
The first that kind of comes to me is what we were talking about yesterday with the linebackers. Like, I know we were kind of saying that it's going to depend on how people kind of slide in and the interchangeable things that we had there. That's the first one that comes up to me. Like, you have a little bit of depth there. You have some guys that were productive. Like we said, we're hoping that Patrick Queen kind of shows a bit more, even though he was pretty solid last year. The secondary, I mean, you add in a few guys, you take one major guy out. I still think that is slightly better than last year, maybe. That also depends on what they do at safety, like we mentioned yesterday. So those two would probably come to mind for me as the most improved, or like ones that we should kind of watch for. But
Yeah.
I think everyone expects that the wide receiver room is one that's got to kind of strike fear in their hearts a
Yeah.
little bit, especially not a defined receiver two. We talked about the tight ends yesterday, and maybe they could slide in there, but still, it seems like didn't really make much progress last year. You get Roman Wilson back, you swap out George Pickens for DK Metcalf. It kind of feels like same thing, different day, just different people.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, well, it's interesting you mentioned like the corners and the safety because of the trade. I'd say that trade in general like changed three rooms. Like feel really good about the corners and tight ends now, but certainly the safety going to be a big question mark. Again, whether they had like a starting caliber player there or it is going to be primarily Juan Thornhill or if Jalen Ramsey's going to play there in base, whatever the plan is, like you need at least a body, like a dude that can play free safety at the very least, still added to that room. So to me, I'd say that room got weaker. Obviously, I think the corner group got better, and I think the tight end group going from what they had last year, basically sub in Jonnu Smith for Michael Pruitt. And I'm not trying to take away anything from Michael Pruitt, but that's clearly an upgrade in that room. So feel good about that. The other one I wanted to bring up was the defensive line. I think, again, not trying to take away from Larry Ogunjobi, but give me Derek Harmon and Ekwale over Larry Ogunjobi every single day of the week. I think that might be the deepest position group that they have. I think they probably have a guy that's an NFL player at the bottom of the roster or at the bottom of the depth chart right now that's not going to make the team that could make a team somewhere else. I think if there's like one cut there that ends up getting signed somewhere else, maybe it's there. And we talked about this earlier in the week on the podcast, but maybe that's pretty rare. And I wouldn't say that I'm like banking on this to happen, but maybe that's a spot where you can trade like a bottom of the roster defensive lineman to somebody for like a bottom of the roster wide receiver. Like, hey, this guy's probably going to get cut here. That guy's going to get cut there. Maybe we just make a swap and not have to worry about like competing on the free agent market or something for those types of players. So that's another room that comes to mind for me.
Yeah, and in terms of like size, I was going to mention this yesterday. Y.A. Black, who like he's a rookie, wasn't really a high pick. He's I think like the only guy on the roster, maybe other than Derek Harmon, that compares to Cam Hayward in size. So you see him in person. When I wrote about them during rookie minicamp and OTAs and minicamp, that they're as big as vending machines. So maybe that nickname will stick on at some point. Like they're huge. They're gigantic.
Yeah. Longest wingspan of the entire draft class. Y.A. Black. The other thing that I want to bring up, and this doesn't necessarily directly tie into this, but I had it on my mind already. I believe somebody actually asked a question about this now that I'm saying it, so I'll go back and give them credit. But I think this. It's your boy Cam here, Cam Hassler. Yeah, he said, who do you think between Warren and Kaleb Johnson will make more of an impact this year? Artie is rumored to love Kaleb. Perhaps we see more of like a running back by committee. Seems like it's going to depend on if the line finally starts to mesh together. And then he had to sign off here, one of Brendan's best friends. So appreciate the question, Cam. It's interesting because like, is it only considered a running back by committee if it's at or close to a 50-50 split? I guess that's my question on this because we know both are going to play. Yeah. But I think this is just my opinion as somebody that loves the long-term outlook of Kaleb Johnson, think like for this offense, he fits like a glove. I also think Jaylen Warren's a really good fit, and he does everything well for what this offense does. You have no questions about him in pass pro. You know what he can do as a receiver. As much as I think that those parts of Kaleb Johnson's game can translate, we haven't seen it yet, and I don't think it's necessarily going to happen like super early in his NFL career, just because you have a back kind of, I don't know if blocking him is the right word, but in front of him on the depth chart right now that can do those things at a high level. So I still expect Jaylen Warren to be the lead back, at least, into the deeper portions of the season here. But it's not like Kaleb Johnson's going to get like completely phased out. And honestly, Kenneth Gainwell, I think is going to have a role as well. I've been clamoring for this for like 4 years now to see pony formation on the field and get two of these backs on the field at the same time. So hopefully this is finally the year with the personnel that they have to see it. But yeah, I mean, I think Jaylen Warren's the lead back. I think Kaleb Johnson has a role. I think Kenneth Gainwell has a role as well. But if you're asking me who the lead back is, to me, it's Jaylen until it's not.
Yeah, I think the same there. Like you see Jaylen Warren in practice, and like I think I wrote this on Twitter at some point. Like he looks like he could like fit in a pinball machine. Like he's very compact. Like we saw what he can do over these past few years, and some people even said like he was better than Najee Harris was, and the reason that Najee Harris was in front of him was because he's a first round pick. You can't admit mistakes and kind of sit him. Injuries have kind of factored in with Jaylen Warren at points, which might open up the door for Kaleb Johnson to get some more running. But Kenneth Gainwell, like you mentioned, is still there too. He's a veteran guy that he made an impact in Philadelphia. He knows what it takes to win. I think it was really funny. I asked him and I asked Darius Slay what's the similarities in Pittsburgh and Philly, kind of seeing if they'd say anything about the culture or anything like that. And Darius Slay mentioned that it was the weather. That's just like the saying. He had some words for that. But yeah, anytime you have a rookie running back in Kaleb Johnson that's been compared to Le'Veon Bell, no one's gonna be Le'Veon Bell in terms of that patience. Like TikToks come up, and I can't skip a Le'Veon Bell TikTok. Like if I'm watching him,
dude, it was only 5 years. He was literally, I mean, I don't say this lightly, my favorite player to watch to this day. I've never had more fun watching a player than Le'Veon Bell. I understand the comparison just because, like, out of the draft class, he like his footwork was the best. He's the most patient. His vision for the whole, like, he'll let the block set up in a similar way to Le'Veon would. The vision's certainly there, but yeah, like, I'm not going to say he's going to have that type of, run that Le'Veon did. Again, it was for a short period of time on his own doing, but yeah, that's pretty high praise for sure. I'm not willing to go there yet.
Yeah. Your favorite player during that time, my favorite player during that time, and he just keeps on disappointing me with the way he's acting off the field afterwards, is Antonio Brown. Like, there will never be another Killer Bees. That's not what made me like fall in love with the game, but I never had more fun watching the Steelers than I did as a high schooler watching those guys play. Like, so you look back, you really hate that Saints game. I think it was the last game maybe played for the Steelers, and kind of
2018. Yeah, because he basically self-suspended for the last game of the season against Cincinnati.
So yeah, coming to me on the sidelines and everything. What a crazy time.
Yeah, 2018 was wild, and it's all because he was jealous basically that Juju won team MVP over him that year. Wild stuff. What a team of characters, man, that they had. And for, I know people get on Tomlin a lot and understand, like, those guys had personalities. He kept them under control enough to still perform on the football field.
Yeah.
There was no way of keeping those guys under wraps to do nothing, but he kept it under control enough for them to still perform.
Someone will write that biography someday, so we'll see.
Oh, yeah, and I will be the first person to watch or read it when it happens. All right, good stuff. Brennan, of course, before we get out of here, tell the people they can find you and get more of your work.
Find me at by Brennan Howe. I think the tag is on here today. I didn't get that yesterday.
There you go.
I realized I could. So find me there on Twitter. I write every day for Steelers Now, like I said yesterday, sometimes in the morning, sometimes at night, mainly at night. So try to find some time. And yeah, I'll be covering some training camp and covering games and stuff up ahead, and really excited for that.
Are you going to be at all of training camp?
I am trying to work that out with like my day job right now. So like I have a different sort of schedule where I work 3 to 11 at my day job. So it's finding split shifts and stuff. And yeah, I would like to be at every practice. I'm hoping to, but it might not work out that way, and we'll see.
Yeah, I'm not interested in being there for. Honestly, I'm hoping the Friday Night Lights thing works out. Alan asked if I'd be interested in getting credentialed doing that one, so we'll see if that one happens. But other than that, man, those 155 practices, Colin Coward video, we're good.
Staying out of the sun. No tan, no sunburn for you.
If they were 10:55 in the morning, like, wrapping up before it gets too hot, maybe doable. 155, are you kidding me? Man, I'd be praying for rain, I think.
No shade. I've heard there's no shade out there either. So you get a little bit of hand. Like, I've been walking out these past few mornings to let my dog out, and like the heat just hits you right when you walk outside. It's not even like 90 degrees out either. Like, you walk out, it's stuffy, and I'm just ready to go back inside. So we'll see how that operates over the next few weeks.
Yeah. Best of luck. Maybe I'll see you up there if you're up there for the Friday Night Lights one. But appreciate you joining me over the last couple of days on the podcast here. Been a lot of fun. We'll have to make it happen in the future. Certainly get you added to the rotation, whether Alan's here or not. Make sure that you're making appearances on here. I'm sure that will happen. And when you're out there doing the standalone videos and practice recaps and stuff with Alan. So good stuff. Appreciate you joining me. Appreciate everybody watching or listening to the show as well. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you were here on YouTube, hit us in the comments your thoughts on anything that we talked about today, including the thoughts I'm very much looking forward to reading on TJ Watt's extension. So I'm literally expecting it to be basically a 1-to-1 ratio as I'm going down on people loving or hating the deal. So looking forward to that. If you're listening somewhere else, Apple, Spotify, wherever your podcast from, be sure to leave a 5-star review and subscribe over there. Just search Steelers Afternoon Drive. Do the same thing on TikTok. You can find me everywhere, Zachary Smith, PGH. For Brendan Howe and myself, thanks for jumping in. Take another ride on the Steelers Afternoon Drive.